Never overshare, especially when you like them. Never overshare, especially when you like them. Speech by Poumpour. When you like someone, it's natural to want to open up, to share your thoughts, your stories, your dreams, even your pain. You want them to understand you, to see who you really are. But here's the truth: the moment you start oversharing too soon, you lose a certain power. You lose the mystery that makes people curious. You give away too much of yourself before the other person has earned the right to see that side of you. Mystery builds attraction, not oversharing. People are drawn to what they can't fully read yet. Let them discover you slowly, piece by piece, like a good book, not all at once in one long confession. Oversharing doesn't come from confidence. It comes from anxiety. It's the fear of losing someone's interest, or the fear of not being enough. You talk too much because you want to be accepted, but in doing that, you often end up overwhelming the connection. True confidence is calm and measured. You don't have to prove yourself through endless stories or emotional details. Sometimes, the most powerful person in the room is the one who speaks the least, who lets their energy, silence, and presence speak louder than words. You don't need to explain yourself. You only need to be yourself. Your emotions are precious. Your private thoughts, your struggles, your dreams. Those are sacred things. Not everyone deserves access to them. When you overshare with someone too early, you risk giving your emotional power to the wrong person. Some people listen just to collect information, not to connect. That's why you have to protect your emotional privacy. Share your truth with those who have proven they can handle it, not with those who haven't even earned your trust. The right person won't need your full story on the first day. They'll take their time to know you, to learn your rhythm, and to understand your depth. Remember, love is not about rushing connection. It's about building it. Oversharing skips the natural steps that create emotional balance. Let people earn your openness. Let them invest their time and energy to get to know you. When you share too much too soon, you hand over emotional intimacy for free. But when you let people earn it, they value it more deeply. The best relationships are built on mutual discovery, not one person giving everything while the other simply listens. Don't rush emotional intimacy. Let it unfold. And finally, understand this: silence can be more attractive than words. You don't have to explain every emotion or every decision. You don't have to fill every pause with conversation. Sometimes, holding back creates more space for curiosity, respect, and appreciation. That pause, that quiet self-control, shows maturity and confidence. The strongest people are those who know when to speak and when to stay silent. So the next time you like someone, resist the urge to overshare. Let them wonder a little. Let them work to understand you. Let your mystery draw them in, not your words push them away. Because when you keep parts of yourself sacred, you don't just protect your heart. You command respect. Never overshare, especially when you like them. The power of mystery. Why you should never overshare when you like someone. When you meet someone who captures your attention, it's easy to fall into the trap of wanting to share everything. Your thoughts, your feelings, your memories, your struggles, even your deepest secrets. You want them to know you, to understand you, to connect with you on a deeper level. But here's a truth that most people learn the hard way. Oversharing too soon doesn't build connection. It destroys attraction. There's incredible power in mystery, and learning when to hold back can completely change how people perceive and value you. When you reveal everything about yourself too quickly, you remove the intrigue that makes human connection magnetic. People are naturally drawn to what they can't fully figure out. When you tell them everything at once, you remove the chase, the curiosity, and the desire to discover more. Think of it like reading a good book. The best stories don't give away all their secrets in the first chapter. They unfold slowly, layer by layer, building interest and emotion with every page. That's exactly how relationships should develop too. When you like someone, you don't need to rush the process. The moment you pour out every detail about your past or every thought that crosses your mind, you rob the other person of the experience of getting to know you naturally. Attraction is not just about what's shown. It's about what's left unsaid. It's in the pauses, the glances, and the sense that there's more to you than meets the eye. Mystery keeps people invested. Oversharing makes them feel like there's nothing left to learn. Oversharing often comes from a place of insecurity rather than confidence. When you like someone, especially deeply, your emotions start to seek validation. You want them to approve of you, to relate to you, to like you back with the same intensity. So you start revealing everything: your childhood, your fears, your trauma, your relationships, thinking that emotional honesty will create intimacy. But in reality, it often does the opposite. When you expose too much too soon, you don't give the other person time to earn that level of trust. True intimacy is not built on instant openness. It's built on mutual respect, emotional safety, and gradual understanding. Confidence isn't about oversharing your emotions. It's about knowing that you don't need to prove yourself with words. Silence, when used wisely, can be one of your greatest strengths. There's a special kind of power in not revealing everything. When you know who you are and what you carry inside, you don't feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. You realize that not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Oversharing gives people power over you, power they haven't earned. Some might use your vulnerability to connect with you, but others might use it to manipulate or judge you later. Protect your emotional privacy. You can be authentic without being transparent about everything. You can be real without being raw in front of everyone. The strongest people speak less and observe more. They share their truth selectively, with those who have shown loyalty, empathy, and consistency. Not everyone deserves to know your story. Some people only deserve a few sentences of it. When you overshare, you also disrupt the balance of emotional energy in a relationship. You become the giver, constantly opening up, while the other person just listens. The dynamic becomes one-sided, and you end up doing all the emotional labor. Instead, learn to balance the exchange. Share a little, then listen. Ask questions, observe their reactions, and let the connection breathe. When you pace your vulnerability, it allows the relationship to develop in harmony. Remember, what people work for they value more. When you give everything easily, they often take it for granted. When you let them earn your openness, they treasure it. Emotional boundaries are not walls, they're filters. They keep your energy sacred and your peace intact. Mystery also makes you more memorable. In a world where everyone overshares on social media, being private stands out. When people can't read you completely, they think about you more. They wonder what you're like, what you're thinking, what you might say next. It creates a sense of anticipation. You become a puzzle they want to solve, not a story they've already finished reading. That's what makes people come back. Not constant talking, but emotional restraint. The art of connection lies in knowing when to reveal and when to remain silent. Because mystery doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you're preserving. You're choosing to show depth slowly, intentionally, and meaningfully. So when you like someone, resist the urge to overshare. Don't rush to tell them every secret, every hurt, or every dream. Let them earn the right to know your layers. Let them wonder about you. Let them work to understand you. Your story is valuable, and the right person will want to discover it over time, not in one sitting. They'll ask questions, stay curious, and enjoy the process of getting to know the real you. The wrong person will get bored once they feel they know everything. But the right one will fall deeper the more they learn. Your mystery is not a weakness, it's your magnetism. In the end, love isn't about how much you share, it's about how you share it. Protect your peace, hold your truth, and remember that silence can often say more than words ever will. Because when you master the art of not oversharing, you stop chasing validation and start commanding respect. You don't beg for connection, you attract it. You don't give your heart away, you let someone earn it. And that's when you truly understand the beauty and power of mystery. Never overshare, especially when you like them, because your silence, your mystery, and your boundaries are what make you unforgettable. Confidence speaks quietly. Why oversharing comes from insecurity, not strength. When you truly like someone, it's easy to let your emotions take the lead. You want to be understood, accepted, and appreciated. So you start sharing more and more. You talk about your past, your struggles, your fears, your dreams, and every thought that crosses your mind. You think that by being completely open, You'll build trust and closeness. But here's the reality: oversharing rarely comes from confidence. It comes from insecurity. It's the silent fear that if you don't reveal enough, the other person might lose interest. But real confidence doesn't rush to explain or justify itself. It doesn't beg to be seen. It stands strong in silence and speaks only when it needs to. Oversharing is often an unconscious attempt to prove worth. You might feel that by showing your depth or honesty, someone will see your value faster. But in doing so, you accidentally flood the connection with too much information too soon. You give away your emotional energy before the other person has earned it. You make yourself emotionally available without boundaries, and that can make even good people pull away. Confidence, on the other hand, is knowing that you don't need to oversell yourself. You don't have to explain your every thought or share your whole story to be loved. The right people will sense your depth in your presence, not your paragraphs. True power is quiet. True confidence is calm. Think about it. When you meet someone who radiates calmness, who listens more than they speak, who doesn't rush to fill every silence, that person automatically commands attention. They seem grounded. They give off a sense of self-assurance that doesn't need approval. That's what emotional maturity looks like. You don't need to tell someone how confident or strong you are. Your composure will show it. But oversharing, especially early on, can give off the opposite impression. It signals emotional restlessness, a need for reassurance, and sometimes even desperation. It tells the other person, "I need you to like me," instead of, "I know my worth whether you like me or not." The difference is subtle, but it's everything. There's a simple truth most people overlook: not everyone can handle your vulnerability. Some people will respect it, while others will use it against you. When you share too much, too fast, you're giving people access to your emotional weaknesses. And not everyone deserves that access. Some may pretend to care just to gain control. Others might lose interest because the mystery fades. Confidence is being selective about who gets your energy. It's knowing that your emotions are sacred, and only those who have proven trustworthiness get to experience your deeper layers. When you protect your emotional space, you communicate that your life, your thoughts, and your peace have value. You're not hiding, you're honoring your self-respect. Oversharing also drains your own energy. After long conversations where you've poured out your entire soul, notice how empty you sometimes feel. That's because oversharing isn't connection, it's self-exposure. It leaves you emotionally naked, often in front of people who haven't earned that level of trust. Confidence is about emotional control, about knowing what to say, when to say it, and to whom. It's not silence out of fear, it's silence out of strength. A confident person doesn't need to fill the air with constant talking. They're comfortable in the quiet. They don't need external validation because they already have internal peace. When you find yourself wanting to overshare, pause and ask, why do I feel the need to say this right now? Am I trying to build a genuine connection, or am I trying to secure approval? Often, it's the second one. Oversharing can feel like connection in the moment, but it's really about comfort. You want to feel accepted, so you overexpose yourself emotionally. But the strongest connections come from shared experiences, not shared oversharing. Confidence is built when you know your worth even in silence. When you trust that your presence, your energy, and your boundaries speak louder than your stories. The more at peace you are with yourself, the less you need to explain yourself to others. There's also a psychological layer to this. People who overshare tend to struggle with emotional self-regulation. It's not that they're weak. It's that they've been through things that made them crave understanding. They want someone to finally get them. But real healing doesn't come from telling everyone your pain. It comes from learning to carry it with grace. The moment you realize you don't need anyone else to validate your story, you step into true confidence. It's not about silence out of shame. It's about silence out of control. You know what's worth saying, and what's worth keeping sacred. You've outgrown the need to overshare, because you've outgrown the need to prove yourself. And here's the secret. People are more drawn to those who protect their energy. When you don't overshare, you create a sense of mystery and stability that others can feel. They start to respect you more because you clearly respect yourself. You become someone who seems self-contained, complete on your own. That's magnetic. That's the kind of energy that attracts genuine connections instead of shallow ones. The person who doesn't talk too much, who doesn't explain every emotion, who doesn't chase validation, that person stands out in a world of noise. Quiet confidence is louder than any story you could tell. So, the next time you like someone, don't rush to impress them with vulnerability. Let them earn your truth. Let them ask questions. Let them show consistency before you open the deeper pages of your life. Because when you overshare, you chase understanding. But when you stay composed, you attract respect. There's a fine line between being open and being exposed. Learn the difference, and your confidence will become unshakable. Remember this: oversharing is an attempt to be seen. Confidence is the peace of knowing you already are. You don't need to prove your worth through words. Your calmness, your boundaries, and your silence will say everything for you. The next time you're tempted to over-explain, just breathe. Let silence speak. Let your energy do the talking. Because true confidence doesn't shout, it whispers, and still gets heard. Protect your emotional privacy. Not everyone deserves access to you. In a world where everyone is constantly talking, posting, and revealing every detail of their lives, protecting your emotional privacy has become an act of strength. Most people think vulnerability means telling everything, every thought, every fear, every scar. But real strength isn't in exposing your wounds. It's in knowing who's worthy of seeing them. Not everyone deserves access to your emotions, your story, or your energy. The truth is, your heart is sacred ground, and not everyone has earned the right to walk on it. The problem with oversharing is that it hands people a map to your inner world before you even know if they can be trusted. Some will handle that with care, but others will use it against you. That's why emotional privacy isn't about being closed off. It's about being wise. It's knowing that peace grows in protected spaces. Every time you open up to someone, you give them a piece of your energy. When you share your fears, your hopes, your insecurities, or your dreams, you are allowing them into your sacred inner circle. But not everyone you meet deserves that level of access. Some people only show up for curiosity, not care. They want to know your story, not to understand it, but to measure it, compare it, or even use it. Emotional privacy is about understanding this reality and setting boundaries that protect your soul. You don't owe explanations for everything you feel. You don't need to tell people what you're going through to prove that you're being real. You can be authentic without being exposed. When you start valuing emotional privacy, you begin to feel lighter, calmer, and more centered. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You stop justifying your silence. You stop trying to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You start realizing that the peace you feel in silence is more valuable than the temporary relief you get from oversharing. Protecting your emotions means you trust yourself enough to handle what's happening inside you without needing constant validation. You don't rush to tell people your pain. You sit with it, you process it, and you let it strengthen you. That's maturity. That's emotional independence. The danger of oversharing isn't just that others might misuse your vulnerability. It's that you slowly lose your sense of self. When you constantly tell people what you're feeling or thinking, your identity becomes dependent on their reaction. You start viewing yourself through their opinions instead of your own truth. Protecting your privacy helps you stay grounded in who you are. Regardless of who's listening, you don't need to be seen to know you exist. You don't need to be heard to know your voice has value. Peace doesn't need an audience. People who protect their emotional privacy are often misunderstood. Others might call them distant, cold, or mysterious. But that's only because they're used to people who overshare everything. They don't know what self-control looks like anymore. But privacy doesn't mean emotional walls. It means emotional wisdom. You're not pushing people away. You're letting them earn your trust. You're not hiding who you are. You're choosing when and with whom to be open. The more you mature, the more you realize that not everyone deserves to hear your story. Some people just don't have the capacity to hold it with care. And that's okay. You can love people and still keep parts of yourself private. You can be kind and still be guarded. Protecting your emotional privacy is not selfish. It's self-respect. We live in a time where oversharing is mistaken for authenticity. Social media has normalized emotional exposure. People post their pain, their relationships, their struggles, their victories. Everything is public. But what's public can also be polluted. The more people know about you, the more opinions they form. The more opinions they form, the more energy you lose trying to manage or respond to them. Privacy protects you from that noise. It creates a sacred distance between your peace and other people's projections. The less people know, the freer you feel. You're not hiding. You're preserving your inner world from being contaminated by outside judgment. When you protect your emotional privacy, you start connecting more deeply, not with everyone, but with the right ones. You learn that genuine intimacy is built slowly, with trust and respect. You don't have to tell your whole story to create connection. Sometimes, it's the little things, a look, a shared silence, an honest sentence, that say the most. Emotional privacy teaches you that depth doesn't need volume. You can be emotionally deep without being emotionally naked. Real connection isn't about how much you reveal, but how genuinely you relate. Also, protecting your emotional privacy helps you handle life's challenges with greater power. When you keep your emotions private, you learn to process them internally, with clarity and control. You stop reacting out of impulse. You stop oversharing your struggles to people who can't help. You become your own safe space. That's what emotional maturity looks like. Being able to hold your emotions with patience, instead of scattering them everywhere. The moment you stop seeking validation from others, you start building emotional confidence. You realize that you can feel deeply without announcing it, heal quietly without proving it, and grow privately without explaining it. So, protect your emotional privacy fiercely. Don't hand everyone a front row seat to your inner life. Let people earn it. Let them show that they can handle your truth before you give it. Remember, your emotions are not community property. They are yours. Some things deserve to stay between you, your heart, and your peace. You can share your joy and still keep your soul private. You can open your heart without opening every door. The most powerful people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who know the strength of silence. They don't overshare. They observe. They protect their energy like it's gold because it is. In the end, protecting your emotional privacy is about protecting your peace. It's about choosing calm over chaos, control over confusion, and dignity over desperation. The less you reveal, the stronger you remain. Because when people don't know everything, they can't control anything. Keep your story sacred. Keep your peace private. Protect your energy. It's your most valuable currency. Let them earn the right to know you. Don't give away your depth for free. In a world where people rush connections, where everyone wants instant closeness and quick validation, the most powerful thing you can do is slow down and protect your depth. When you like someone, whether it's a friend, a partner, or even a colleague, it's tempting to open up too fast. You want them to understand you, to feel your heart, to see your intentions. But here's a truth that will save you from a lot of disappointment. Not everyone deserves to know you deeply. Connection should be earned, not given freely. The more you value yourself, the more careful you become with access to your emotions, your story, and your energy. Let people earn the right to know you, piece by piece, layer by layer, over time. We live in a generation that confuses availability with authenticity. People think that opening up instantly means they're being real. But realness isn't about exposure. It's about discernment. The strongest people aren't the ones who tell everything, they're the ones who know what to hold back. Oversharing doesn't make you more genuine. It makes you more vulnerable to being misunderstood or misused. When you give your emotional truth to someone too quickly, you hand them power they haven't earned. You make them comfortable while you lose balance. Genuine connection requires pacing. It's about revealing who you are slowly, with trust, not urgency. Your depth should never be discounted, it should be discovered. Think of yourself like a book. The best stories don't give everything away in the first chapter. They build slowly, leaving the reader eager to turn each page. When you meet someone, Don't throw them your entire story at once. Let them read your chapters one by one. Let them earn your vulnerability through consistency, patience, and respect. When you let someone earn your openness, you build emotional equity, that sense of balance that makes both people invest. You stop being the one doing all the emotional giving. You stop chasing closeness and start creating connection. Because when people work for something, they value it. When you give something away too easily, they take it for granted. Letting people earn the right to know you isn't about being cold. It's about being wise. It's about protecting your peace and your energy. It's understanding that not everyone has the emotional maturity to handle your honesty. Some people get close just to satisfy their curiosity. Others may use what you share to manipulate or judge you later. That's why emotional boundaries are crucial. They're not walls to keep people out. They're gates that allow the right ones in. The wrong people will call your boundaries distance. The right people will call them respect. Your boundaries don't push people away. They filter who's meant to stay. When you let people earn your trust, you learn who they really are. It's easy to be kind, attentive, or interested in the beginning, but consistency reveals character. Time exposes intentions. That's why you don't rush emotional intimacy. You let people show you their patience before you give them your pain. You let them show their loyalty before you reveal your fears. You let them prove their care before you share your chaos. When you move slowly, you give yourself the chance to see who values you genuinely and who only values your vulnerability. The ones who stay consistent without instant access are the ones worth keeping. Letting others earn your openness also strengthens your self-worth. It teaches you that your emotions are valuable, your stories are meaningful, and your energy is sacred. You stop begging to be understood because you realize that not everyone deserves understanding from you. You stop oversharing to feel connected because you learn that connection built on desperation is always temporary. You start giving only to those who give back. And that's when your relationships become balanced, healthy, and real. The moment you stop overextending, you start attracting people who meet you where you are. You stop chasing attention and start demanding respect. Many people fear that holding back will make them seem distant or hard to read. But mystery doesn't make you unapproachable. It makes you memorable. When people don't know everything about you, they stay curious. They listen more carefully, observe more deeply, and value every word you choose to share. That's emotional magnetism, the power that comes from selective openness. You don't have to be an open book to be understood. You just have to be authentic and intentional about what you reveal. The ones who truly want to know, you won't be scared off by your boundaries. They'll appreciate your grace, your composure, and your self-control. In love, friendship, or any deep relationship, pace matters. The faster something burns, the quicker it fades. Don't let infatuation make you forget your value. Slow connection is stable connection. When you let someone earn your heart, you give the relationship room to breathe. You allow trust to grow naturally instead of forcing it. You build something real, not based on instant emotions, but on mutual effort. The best relationships are those where both people reveal themselves gradually, with patience and care, not urgency and impulse. Let love unfold at the speed of respect. You also have to remember that self-control in communication is a form of emotional discipline. Every time you hold back from oversharing, you're exercising strength. Every time you wait for someone to prove they deserve your truth, you're teaching yourself self-worth. The right person won't rush you. They won't pressure you to open up faster than you're ready. They'll create a space that feels safe, where your vulnerability is met with gentleness and understanding. Those are the people who earn the right to know you, not through words, but through actions. So, protect your depth. Don't hand your story to people who haven't earned your trust. Let them earn your softness by showing you their strength. Let them earn your vulnerability by showing you consistency. Let them earn your heart by showing you respect. The truth is, not everyone deserves access to the real you, and that's okay. The more you value your emotional energy, the more you attract people who value it too. Because at the end of the day, your heart is not a public diary, it's a private sanctuary. It's not meant to be open for everyone who knocks. It's meant to be shared with the few who stay, listen, and prove their loyalty through time. Let them earn the right to know you. Because what's earned is cherished, and what's given too easily is forgotten. Protect your depth, pace your trust, and let your boundaries remind the world that your soul is worth the effort. Silence speaks loudest. The power of holding back in a world that talks too much, in a world obsessed with constant talking, explaining, and proving, silence has become rare and powerful. When you like someone, it's natural to want to express everything: how you feel, what you think, and why you act a certain way. You want to connect, to be understood, to be seen. But sometimes, the most magnetic thing you can do is hold back. Silence, when used with intention, speaks louder than words ever could. It's not about playing games or being distant. It's about showing emotional control, self-respect, and maturity. Because the truth is, when you can master silence, you master yourself. You stop reacting out of impulse and start responding out of strength. We've been conditioned to believe that talking solves everything, that explaining yourself endlessly will make people understand you better. But the more you talk, the more you give away your power. Not every emotion needs to be spoken. Not every thought deserves to be shared. Sometimes, the best response is none at all. Silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's choosing peace over proving, calm over chaos, and control over confusion. It's the language of confidence. When you stop oversharing, you stop giving people the ability to read, judge, or manipulate you. You keep your energy sacred, and your mystery intact. There's something deeply attractive about someone who doesn't rush to explain themselves. The person who can sit in silence, who can handle tension without words, radiates emotional stability. They don't need validation to feel secure. They don't need to fill every moment with conversation to feel connected. They let their presence speak. In relationships, that kind of energy commands respect. It shows you're not desperate to be understood. You're comfortable being misunderstood if it means keeping your peace. That's the essence of emotional power, knowing when to speak, and when silence will say it better. When you're silent, you give others space to reveal themselves. You see their character and how they handle your quietness. Do they get uncomfortable and push you to talk? Do they respect your boundaries? Do they fill the silence with unnecessary noise? Silence is a mirror. It shows you who someone truly is. You don't always have to confront or explain. Sometimes, silence is the strongest statement you can make. It tells people, I don't owe you access to my thoughts. It tells them that you're not seeking their approval. It reminds them that your calm cannot be disturbed easily. Silence protects your dignity when words would only expose your emotions. Oversharing often happens when emotions take control. You want to fix things quickly. You want to be understood. You want to express your heart. But in that rush, you give away too much of your power. The person who remains silent during emotional chaos holds the upper hand. Not because they don't care, but because they know reacting too soon can destroy peace. Silence allows space for reflection. It lets truth reveal itself naturally without being forced. When you stay quiet, you start to notice patterns. In people, in situations, and in yourself. You begin to respond with intelligence instead of emotion. That's emotional mastery, and it starts with silence. The more you mature, the more you realize that silence isn't emptiness, it's strength. It's the calm confidence of knowing you don't need to explain your worth. You don't need to prove your intentions. You don't need to argue for your value. When you can sit quietly while others rush to justify or over-explain, you show control. You show that you trust time and truth to do their work. And ironically, your silence will often say everything that needs to be said. People remember the one who doesn't talk too much, who doesn't react too quickly, who doesn't reveal everything. Because silence carries a presence that words often destroy. There's also peace in silence. When you talk too much, you drain yourself emotionally. Every explanation, every overshare, every emotional outburst costs you energy, but silence conserves it. It keeps your inner world calm and your mind clear. You don't get tangled in drama because you choose observation over reaction. You start to see that silence is not passive. It's active self-protection. It's your way of saying, I choose me. Every time you stay silent when you could have argued, over-explained, or overshared, you are choosing peace over pride. And that's real maturity, the kind that doesn't need attention to feel strong. In love and relationships, silence can also build attraction. When you don't rush to reveal everything about yourself, you create curiosity. The other person starts wondering what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what's behind your calm. That mystery keeps them interested. When you're silent, you become unpredictable, and unpredictability is powerful. People can't control or anticipate someone they can't fully read. You stop being emotionally available to everyone, and that makes your energy more valuable. Silence makes people work harder to understand you, and effort deepens respect. But silence isn't about ignoring people or avoiding communication. It's about knowing when words lose value. It's about understanding that some situations, some people, and some emotions don't deserve your energy anymore. There are moments where silence will protect your dignity more than any speech ever could. It's the art of saying, "I don't need to respond to prove my point," because your piece is proof enough. Silence lets you exit arguments gracefully, leave toxic people guessing, and maintain control even when things get heated. The person who can stay silent under pressure always wins, not the one who talks the loudest. And remember, silence doesn't just speak to others, it speaks to you. It helps you hear your own thoughts more clearly. It gives you time to process emotions, heal wounds, and realign with yourself. When you stop filling every quiet moment with noise, you start listening to your intuition. You hear your own wisdom, the kind that gets drowned out by constant talking. Silence is how you rebuild connection with your soul. It's how you grow into someone unshakable. So, stop feeling the need to explain yourself to everyone. Stop oversharing your emotions just to be understood. Stop giving people the privilege of your words when they haven't earned your trust. Sometimes, your silence is the only answer you need to give. It's not pride, it's peace. It's not distance, it's direction. You're choosing to guard your energy, protect your privacy, and command respect without saying a single word. Because silence is not empty, it's full of power. And when you learn to use it, no one can take your peace away again.